Um, so let me start. My name is Natalia Tzitzi. I'm eTwinning ambassador. I work in a primary school in Athens. I teach English. Najoua, tell us a bit about you. What? Najoua, can you hear me? Yes. Yes.
Natalia, you can hear me.
Yes.
Natalia?
Najoua, I can hear you. Um, has anybody in the participants, from the participants, have any problem with the listening, with hearing Najoua?
Okay.
Uh, Najoua, they can hear you.
Yes.
I've introduced myself, so you may wish to introduce yourself too.
I okay. So thanks, Natalia. I hope that you can hear me now. Yes. Yes. Okay. So Natalia, can you share our presentation to start? Uh, okay. So just we will introduce ourselves and then you can share your screen. I think. Okay. Good. So, hello everyone. We are happy to see you with us today. I see that there are attendees from several countries, from Poland, Greece, Tunisia, Romania, etc. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to the webinar of
Okay, the presentation has
Competences
been
for
uploaded, but I have
Intercultural Dialogue, organized by the network of ambassadors, European ambassadors, eTwinning. Just to introduce ourselves, my name is Najoua Slatnia. I'm a tuning ambassador from
so
Tunisia. I'm a teacher of Spanish in the High School of Granberia, Tunisia, and my partner Natalia. Natalia, introduce yourself. Who are you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So, um, Ah, yes, great. Now, okay, so we will just present the process of our webinar. We will start with the definition of intercultural dialogue. Then we will focus on the competence towards an effective intercultural dialogue, families of competences, and definition of tolerance and empathy.
Sharing the
Then
same piece of
we are happy
information.
to share with you some
I
tasks
think we should start.
To
I'm sharing my screen so
some
that you
tasks
can
from empathy in class and in TwinSpace.
see the presentation that we have
And then we
prepared
will
with
present our
Najoua.
group, eTwinning group. I did it, intercultural dialogue through eTwinning.
I hope you can
About the group, about activities,
share. You can
and some
see my
news,
screen,
resource,
okay?
etc. We will
So let's
start with
get
Natalia. So
started.
Natalia, the floor is yours.
Najoua, you could tell us a few things about the beginning. Okay.
Natalia. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yes, yes. I hope you can hear me now. I had switched off my microphone so that
Uh-huh.
it doesn't interfere with your speech. Uh, so next slide. We are going to find out what intercultural dialogue is and how we can have effective intercultural dialogue, how we can be involved in effective intercultural dialogue. So, what is dialogue to start with? Dialogue is defined as the conversation or discussion between two or more people. The verb to dialogue means to take part in a conversation in order to solve a problem. Intercultural dialogue, as it is defined on the UNESCO side, is the fair and impartial exchange among civilized civilizations, cultures, and peoples. It requires the participants' mutual understanding and respect for all cultures. In order to have to construct social cohesion, reconciliation among peoples, and peace among nations, we need intercultural dialogue. According to the Council of Europe, back in 2008, intercultural dialogue is an open and respectful exchange of views between individuals and groups belonging to different cultures. It leads to a deeper understanding of others' world perception. Having defined intercultural dialogue, let's find out what abilities we should have in order to engage ourselves in fruitful intercultural dialogue. This is the list of competencies. We're going to deal with all of them. We'll keep empathy last. And I'm going to give you just a short description for each one of them. So let's start with respect for otherness. So respect for otherness is the competence that we need to have in order to is one of the competencies we need to have in order to have an effective intercultural dialogue. So having these competence means we are willing to accept that our values are not necessarily the only possible and naturally correct ones. What is more, we are interested in respect for otherness means that we are interested in other people and we're curious about people from other cultures. Competence number 2, acknowledgement of identities, is this competence is linked to empathy. It is the ability to acknowledge the identities which people from other cultures ascribe to themselves and to acknowledge the meanings which they themselves associate with those identities. It isn't easy because there is a tendency, people have the tendency to assimilate other people's identities to the ones which we know from our own cultural perspective. Sorry for that. Tolerance of ambiguity. People who belong to different cultures have different beliefs, different values, and different behaviors. In order to achieving effective intercultural dialogue involves recognizing that there can be multiple perspectives on any given situation, that there may be different interpretations of any given situation. In order to involve ourselves in effective intercultural dialogue, we need to be willing to tolerate ambiguity. One of the most important competencies in order to achieve effective intercultural dialogue is knowledge. We acquire knowledge about our own culture, its practices and products, mainly through socialization within the family and the school. However, in order to be able to understand the perspective of a person from another culture, we also need to have some knowledge about the specific culture of that other person and the practices and products of this culture. In addition, if we wish to engage in dialogue with a person from another culture, it is also important to have more general knowledge of communication, of the communication processes. That is, knowing the culture is one thing, knowing how to communicate with a person from a different culture is another thing. And this communication, the communication processes are shaped by cultural factors. And that is, in other words, effective intercultural dialogue requires both specific and general forms of knowledge. In terms of the general forms of knowledge that we need to acquire is how people manage to communicate, to interact within this particular culture. And the interaction is shaped by social rules. And here we're going to take a look at the social rules that are shaped by our own cultures, and they also shape communication. So, for example, when we're talking to somebody, we usually maintain eye contact. It is very important, either when we are the listeners or when we are the speakers within the same piece of communication. It is very important to maintain eye contact because eye contact communicates interest, authenticity, and a willingness to engage. However, in some cultures, maintaining eye contact throughout a conversation may be considered as impolite. Here, let me show you some, apart from maintaining eye contact with a person, there is also another social rule that may be true in your own culture too. Cheek kissing. So when we meet people that we know, friends or relatives, or just people that we know, acquaintances, we usually kiss them. It depends on the culture, however. In Sweden, in the Netherlands, for example, and Switzerland, 3 kisses are exchanged. In Greece, we usually exchange 2 kisses. In Sweden and Germany, hugs are preferred to kisses. Another rule that is related to social etiquette is the one about having coffee or tea and hot beverage in public. For example, in England, it is not considered polite to dip your cookie in your tea when you are in a public place, whereas in Greece, we can do so. Uh, at this point, we would be very much interested in finding out which of these social rules, these rules of social etiquette, are true in your own culture, or we would be very much interested if you would like to share some other rules of social etiquette that are true in your own culture. So at this point, you could follow the link in the chat box. I suppose that Najo has already added it. No, Nacho is gonna add, yeah, the link to the Padlet wall where you can add. Yes, I'm gonna give you some instructions. There you can add your name and your country. These are two pieces of information that we definitely need. And you also add your specialty or the age of your students. And then we would like you to add a tip, a small piece of information about a social rule, about a rule of social etiquette that is true in your own culture. We are very much interested in finding out what is there in your own culture. I'm very pleased to see that there are people, that there are participants from all over Europe. Now there are, I can see people from Bulgaria, Turkey, Germany. There are participants from Poland, Romania, Greece, Tunisia. Is the link available, Najoua, so that the people can add the rule? Is it in the chat box? Because I can't see it right now. Okay, so click on the link and share with us rules of social etiquette in your culture. It may be related to maintaining eye contact during communication, or there may be some other rule that you need to follow when you are involved, when you are engaged in conversation with somebody in your own culture. You may share a rule of social etiquette that has to do with having tea or coffee in a public place, or it has to do with cheek kissing, with kissing, or it may be any other rule that you can think of right now, something that it's true in your own cultural situation. I'm really curious to find out what's going on the Padlet wall. So I'm okay. Okay, maybe you need some time to think of a social rule. Oh, wow. Thank you, Magdalena. Okay, so being on time is very important for Polish people. All right, it's considered bad manners and poor etiquette. Very good. Um, in Greece, you can arrive a bit late, and it doesn't matter. It's okay. So it's very good to know that we need to be really punctual with our Polish partners. Okay, thank you very much, people, for sharing. We are going on. We'll let you do your stuff on the Padlet wall for a little while, and then we'll go on with the rest of the competencies, and we'll come back to the Padlet wall because there are more things that we would like you to share with us. Because as we said, knowledge is very important. And since we have you here, it is very important to get knowledge firsthand from you. Okay, Najoua, you're right. Yes, I can see in the chat box that you invite the participants to type their questions in the chat box. I forgot to mention that. Thank you very much. Yes, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box. We will be very happy to answer them. Yeah. In Greece, we need to talk to adults showing respect. There is a different grammar form when we address the elders. In Portugal, it is rude to yawn in public. Okay, that's very good to know. Yes, I let you post your social rules, and we'll go on with the presentation and come back to the Padlet wall in a while. There is another activity that we would like you to take part in on the Padlet wall. Next competence, skills of discovery and interaction. The ability to find out new knowledge about the other culture. So we've said that knowledge is very important, but also discovering knowledge about a culture is very important, because it is very unlikely that we know beforehand, before engaging ourselves in communication, to know the knowledge needs that we may have. We don't know them in advance. For this reason, it is important to be able to find out new knowledge about the other culture, either by asking other people, the way that what would we have done right here and now on this Padlet wall. We have asked you, who are members of these other cultures, to share with us your beliefs, your values, your behaviors, social rules in this particular case, so that we can learn about your culture directly from you. We could also find out more about a culture by asking other people who are more knowledgeable than ourselves about the other culture, or by consulting authoritative documentary sources to obtain information about the other culture. So we ask people, either people that are in representatives of that culture, or people that are knowledgeable about this culture, or we use any resources available, particularly digital resources, or we are living in a digital age. Next, behavioral flexibility. That's new cultural knowledge may be acquired during the course of interacting with a person from another culture. So this means that we need to be able to adapt our behavior based on the new knowledge that we acquire. We also, if we acquire new cultural knowledge from documentary sources, this new knowledge may also require us to adjust our behavior on the next occasion we encounter somebody from that other culture. So effective intercultural dialogue, it requires behavioral flexibility. We need to adapt to the new knowledge that we have acquired. Communicative awareness, the ability to be aware of the different linguistic conventions people of different cultures may follow when they communicate. In order to ensure effective intercultural dialogue, we need to be able to recognize linguistic and non-linguistic conventions, such as gestures, as well as their, we need to be able to recognize non-linguistic conventions, but also to recognize, to be aware of the effect on discourse processes. So at this point, I would like to share with you some gestures that are true, that are used in either in Greek or in the English culture. So let me stop the presentation. Take a look at the stop sharing. And okay, let me show you some gestures, and we'll go to use them during the next task that we're going to have. So thumbs up. I don't know whether you can see. Okay, thumbs up. It's a gesture that we use when we approve of somebody or something, of what you do. For example, of the person that we're talking to. And this is true in many cultures. Maybe it is true in your own culture as well. I'm not sure whether you can see that. Okay. Quotes. We use this in the English culture when we are not when we're not telling the truth. For example, when we are, what we're saying is not true. For example, she's my best friend. This means that she isn't my best friend. And keep your fingers crossed. Oh, keep your fingers crossed. I'm going to pass the exam. Or the V. This stands for victory. It stands for what else? For peace, yes, since the 60s. But you should be very careful when you use this gesture in English. The palm should be facing the listener. Otherwise, it would be considered an offensive gesture. The other way around would be considered an offensive gesture. In English, in American English, we use come over here. We use the hand gesture. Okay, I'm not having I'm having a trouble with the video. Okay, so we use the whole palm to invite somebody, come over here. But if we use the forefinger to invite somebody, these would be considered offensive or threatening. So we don't do it in English. In class, we may go, shh, be quiet. That's another gesture. Or we could say, could you speak louder? I can't hear you. Now, I'm done with the dramatization. It's your turn to tell us what gestures you can think of in your culture. If you have recognized, if some of the gestures I've used, you have recognized them and you know that they are true in your own culture as well, then you can use them. What you're gonna do, you're gonna sorry, I need to go back to sharing my screen to show you what you can do on the Padlet wall. The Padlet wall. Najoua, I think that you can see my screen. I hope so. So this is the Padlet wall. Here you can either take a photograph of you showing us a gesture that you use in your own culture, and you can also add the meaning of the culture in your the meaning of the gesture in your culture, or you could also film yourself gesturing. In both cases, either you take a photo or you film yourself gesturing. Please try and post a polite gesture. We need a photo or a short film or a short video and the meaning in your own culture. So don't forget to add your country. These are pieces of information that are very valuable in our effective intercultural dialogue. Actually, they're very beneficial to know in our eTwinning projects as well. So this is the next slide. If you have any questions about the activities, or if you have any questions about the competencies so far, feel free to add your questions in the chat box. I hope I haven't used any gestures that might have been offensive or I don't know what to people from cultures that I'm not familiar with. I hope I haven't done something inappropriate. I wish you to share your reaction in case I have or I haven't with the rest of us on the Padlet wall. Thank you very much. As I told you before, I'm very curious whether you have added something. Okay, so there are people there trying to post gestures from their own country. We need you. Yeah. So we need you to share knowledge about your cultural knowledge about your own culture. You are the experts when it comes to your culture. So we'll proceed with the presentation. I hope there are some more posts here on the Padlet wall. Let me go on with the presentation. So moving on to next competence, skills of interpreting and relating. A further important aspect of effective, a further important competence for an effective intercultural dialogue is the ability to interpret and to explain the perspectives, practices, and products of another culture. Interpretation and explanation require knowledge of the other culture, as well as empathy, multi-perspectivity, and more general knowledge of cultural practices. Interpretation and explanation also involve relating and comparing the perspectives. That is, in order to understand the other culture better, we should compare it to our own and to be able to see the similarities and the differences between the two cultures, the culture of the other and our own culture. Critical cultural awareness. This is the ability to evaluate perspectives, practices, and products, both in one's own culture and in other cultures, using explicit criteria. It involves becoming aware of our own preconceptions, stereotypes, thinking that people from this particular country behave that way. This is not always true. In most cases, the stereotypes that we create are far from the truth. We should also be able to identify the assumptions and values that underlie the perspectives of our own culture, but also the perspectives of other cultures. We should be able to evaluate the perspectives. We should be able to evaluate our cultural practices and products, not necessarily to the practice and the products of other people's cultures. We should start evaluating the practice and the products of our own culture. And we should use an explicit set of criteria, which is and criteria that are going to be the same, no matter which culture we are evaluating. Next, competence action orientation. Okay, it is very important to have all the abilities, competencies that we have mentioned before, but it's also very important to be able to put all these into practice. We need to be able to grasp and take seriously the opinions and arguments of others. According, we should be able to put ourselves in the situation of others. We should be able to accept variety, divergence, and difference. We should be able to recognize conflicts and find harmony where possible. We should be able to regulate issues in a socially acceptable fashion, finding compromises, seeking consensus. We should be able to weigh rights and responsibilities. We have rights, but we also have responsibilities, and we should expect others to respect our rights, but also we should expect from ourselves to respect other people's rights. We should develop common interests and needs, not necessarily find the differences. Okay, now the last two
Natalia, we can hear the
competences are tolerance and empathy. I left them for the end of the list because I think they are the most important. So tolerance means the ability or willingness to tolerate the existence of opinions or behavior that one dislikes or disagrees with. So literally the term tolerance means enduring or putting up with other people who are judged to be different from oneself. It is possible to be tolerant and prejudiced at the same time. So we are going to turn to the UNESCO site again and find out the tolerance is the threshold, according to the UNESCO site, it is the threshold of peace. Tolerance is interconnected with education for peace, human rights, and democracy. However, we should mention, yes, yes, is anything the matter? Can't you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thanks, Natalia.
So,
just
being
now
tolerant, tolerance is interconnected with education for peace, human rights, and democracy.
So the first one
of course, in some cultures, being tolerant
partners.
may be considered to be similar
as
to
we know,
being
among
weak,
eTwinning, the
while in
recommendation
other
is to publish in the project learner, so that your project is visible to eTwinning community. But
cultures,
also,
being tolerant
it's
is
the first
acknowledged as being
contact
very
and the way
strong,
for
so strong as to
communication and
overcome
empathy between partners. So
oneself
it's important
and
to react
step
and
in
also to
somebody else's
encourage our
shoes
students to comment
and accept
positively
their
in
right to be
our
different.
partners' publication. Here, for example, our Belgian partner
So
Pilar,
in
the
this
new
sense,
vision of
tolerance
the
is
world
considered as an
project,
intrinsic value in modern
submitted in
society,
the
along with
project learner, the
liberty
logo
and human
created by
values.
her students working in
And
group.
finally,
And
we've reached
we, teachers and students, we comment this publication.
empathy.
So
Empathy is the ability to project
very motivating and
imaginatively
fun, as you
into
can
other
see.
people's feelings.
So here, you see
It
that
is
it's good,
very,
it's very
it is vital
important,
in intercultural
fun,
dialogue
etc.
because
it's
to
very
have the
important
ability
to
to be empathetic
motivate
means
your
that you are
students
able
to
to
comment
decenter from
this
your
publication.
own cultural presuppositions. You are
So
able
the
to
first
become
task
aware
is
of what
the
is
project
usually
learner.
unconscious, which is
Natalia, if
very
you can move
difficult.
for the second,
You are able to
the
adopt
other
other
slide.
people's perspective and accept that their ways also seem natural to them.
So, no. Forum and dialogue.
Becoming empathetic is very difficult in its own. Let alone when we as teachers need to teach our students how they can be empathetic.
The TwinSpace forum is a very useful and interesting tool for dialogue and communication. So between all partners, teachers or students, etc. So it makes to get closer to the other partners and to sympathize with them.
Nurture
So here, for example, in this project example,
here there is a list of
worked in 5
that are very,
multinational
it's a
groups
vocabulary,
from Tunisia, Spain, and Ukraine.
Use.
3 cultures, 3
You
different
may
cultures.
use
We have
the
created
English
forums for
words
each
for
group for
emotions
presentation
if you're
between
teaching English as a
students.
foreign language,
And
or you can
it
resort
was
to
successful already. All the students
the
from
equivalence
different
of
countries
these
have experienced
adjectives in your own
themselves
language.
well. So
the
we
first
will
task that we
talk
have
in
here
general,
is guess the feeling. You can use
thanks to this
images,
forum, students can
royalty-free
introduce
images like
themselves.
this
They
one.
can discuss
It's a clear
topics
cut
related
case
to
what
the project, can celebrate advance or celebration of their
feeling is here.
partner, can
Or you
express
can
their
use
opinion
emojis
or
or
agree in
icons.
activities,
You
etc.
could
So it's very, very useful to create
put
forums for our
erase the
students.
word here
So,
and let the children
but
guess the
our
feeling,
rule as
judging from the
teachers
emoticon.
is to
You can
make these
use
forums, let them to
videos
express,
like this one here.
to write about their opinion, to agree, etc. But we need
You
to
don't
allow
need,
implicitly
you
this
don't actually
dialogue
listen to the
and this
song.
discussion between our
You are
students
gonna
for not to fall
watch
into
the
negative
people
cases of
on
intolerance, or
this
we need
video.
to
You
encourage
can
them
watch
to be
their body
friendly, to
posture,
important to educate our
You can watch their
students
facial
not to offend their partners and not use words that may hurt or disturb them.
the hand gestures they use.
Of course, they are free to
The
express
whole
themselves,
thing
but we
points
need to educate them that freedom is also a
to a certain
responsibility as well.
feeling.
So it's
And then you can
important to
start a
write
discussion
things,
with your
beautiful
students.
things, nice
Why
things,
do
to be
you
nice
think
with their partner. For that, but
they feel
forums is
that?
very,
What do
very
you think the
important in our
situation
project. So
is?
it's highly
Would you
recommended to
feel the
make good
same if
use
you
of
were
the
in that
space
situation?
for
I've done this in
dialogue
class with the
between
children, and
the
they come
partners
up with things
of
that
the
make
project.
them
So, task 3,
feel
Natalia,
sad.
please.
Okay, let me stop.
Okay, so task 3 that I suggest, that I propose, is to discover the other by playing together.
Another task
Here
is
we have
feel what others feel.
there are many tools for gamification, if you want. We all know that
drama
learning by
activity.
playing is a very
Mirrors, it's very
motivating method in
popular
learning,
among
and also in
drama
our
teachers.
eTwinning project. So there are several Web 2.0 tools
Student
that
A
allows
exhibits a feeling
gamification in class.
non-verbally using body
Here,
language and
we will take the Kahoot as an
gesturing
example.
and
I took an
expressions, facial
example
expressions,
from the
and
project
student
The
B
New Vision of the World,
imitates student A. That's a
Mundo.
mistake
There are 11 partners countries, so to
there.
introduce these
They
partners
have
countries and
student B
discover their
has to do
culture,
it
habits, and
simultaneously.
traditions.
It's like
We
being
gave our
student
students the
A's
freedom to ask
mirror.
in the TwinSpace forum the question they want to
And
know
you
about
can
the
take
country
photos
of
of
their
this
the countries
activity
of
and
their
use it
partners.
later on in
So,
class
and then,
for
based on this question, we created a survey
further
Kahoot
discussion
in
on
participating
emotions.
countries. So
Here you can also
also
listen. You
we
can ask
played this Kahoot in a live video conference between the project partners.
your
And
students
really,
to
the
listen to
result
a
was very
song.
positive. A
They
wonderful
listen to the song for
atmosphere,
30
friendship,
seconds in order to get
sympathy,
to
and
the
fun. Our students have fun together and get to know each
mood,
other without any
and
problem. So
then you
it's
ask
very
them
important
either
to make
dance or anyway to
this
move
type of
according to the
task.
feeling conveyed
So if you want, we
by
can
this
share with you
particular
the
song.
link of the Kahoot.
So here you may be
Just a
able
minute,
to
I can share
listen.
it with
This is
you.
the first one. You listen to the song, you listen to the
Okay.
music, and you close your eyes. At least I ask my students to close their eyes, and you try and figure
And also the live video conference.
out the
Playing
feeling.
this Kahoot.
Listening to the first song. Oh, sorry. Listening to the first song, it's very loud. I'm gonna turn the volume down. You could add the feeling that it steers in you in the chat box. There is no correct feeling.
If you want, there are many tools of gamification, not only
how you
Kahoot,
feel, but the emotion that you experience.
It's very simple, very motivate for our students, etc. Okay, so Natalia, you can share them another task in TwinSpace.
Okay, I suppose you get the idea. This one, close your eyes. Okay, what's the feeling conveyed? You can't hear the audio files. Najoua? Okay, you don't need to worry. Okay, I'm gonna stop it here and move on with okay. So the rest of the audio files, you could listen to them. The PowerPoint presentation will be uploaded in the file section of the webinar of the live event on eTwinning Live. So you don't need to worry. You'll have the presentation and you can do everything at your own time and your own pace. Here is okay, doing mirrors and filling the music in class. And this is a short video about what we did last year for the International Day of Happiness. The children shared happiness by telling jokes to students of the other classes, giving hugs, handing happy faces, drawings that they had created themselves. You can watch the video yourselves too as well. Here we have prepared some TwinSpace tasks. Najoua, the floor is eventually yours. Sorry for taking so much time. You tell me when you need me to have the slides.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, and thanks to be my partner in this group. So I did it eTwinning group as intercultural dialogue for eTwinning. This group is intended to be a collaborative space where two eTwinners will meet and discuss the different technique and method teachers eTwinners can use here can use to approach intercultural dialogue and cultivate cultural understanding in their eTwinning project. So just I need to share with you the link of our group to join us, and then we will share our screen to go to evening live. This is the link. Okay. Yes, it's okay. Okay. So here, okay, thank you. So here, as you see, is the home of our group. So there are here
Forward or
pages about
backwards?
our group. The first one, if we click in on the in this group about this group, Natalia, click on about this group. Natalia. It's okay. So here you can see the objective that we have for this group exactly. So it's about to help eTwinners to anticipate problems that could arise from contact with different countries and traditions, etc., to assist them and to provide the space for them to exchange experience and ideas, to provide education for tolerance and teach critical thinking, promote empathy, solidarity, and altruism. So this is our objective of this group. And as you see here, there are other under page about the founders. You will click on Natalia about the founders. Okay, there are not time. Okay, so activities. The first one, please, tangible cultural heritage. The first one. Okay, thank you, Connor, to join our group. Okay, so you can find here some information about tangible cultural heritage and the resource. And after to learn about tangible cultural heritage, we have prepared an activity, cultural creation. So in the Padlet, you can create first. You need to create a word clue within words referring to the tangible cultural heritage of your culture, and then you can use this stop, please, Natalia. You can use these tools as word art, image shape, tuxedo, etc., to create your word clues, and then you share them with us in this Padlet. So that we can discover many things, many intangible cultural heritage from your countries. And after we create posters, Natalia, can you show them the posters? Mm-hmm. Okay. There are our collaborative posters from different countries, from Poland, Tunisia, Greece, etc. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's the same approach for the other activities, intangible cultural heritage or natural heritage, digital heritage, and the present activity is enhancing our cultural heritage through eTwinning.